It's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, this is Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. For those of you who are just tuning in, I hope you're truly enjoying this first time ever series we're doing. This has been a legal resource series. So everything for law firms and leaders in the legal field to know as resources that will help them build and scale their companies. Now, for those of you who are not in the legal field, don't disconnect yet, because everything we're covering throughout this legal series is applicable to business overall. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to a colleague, a peer, most importantly, a friend. Daya Naef is an attorney turned entrepreneur and business strategist with over 20 years experience in the law. One of her specialties, and where she has been an amazing resource to me, is Daya's leaning into knowledge around AI and how AI and law have a partnership. And I know every time Daya and I have a conversation, I walk away with so much information, Daya, so much insight, and just the joy of chatting with you. So thank you for joining me here today on Her Success Story.
Oh, I'm absolutely delighted to be here, Ivy. Thank you so much.
So let's just do the backstory first. So you're an attorney for a long time.
Yes.
What transpired for you that you have stepped into owning your company today and really leading in the success journey with Success Partner?
Yeah, well, honestly, like working with when I was mainly an outside general counsel as my law practice for construction companies, I was really finding where people could make better business decisions to keep them out of legal hiccups.
The construction industry is really good with that.
Yes, they love a good name calling and a good take it outside moment. And I was really thinking that if they did some more proactivity in their client selection, their partnering selection, working out things, early dispute resolution type things, then they would, of course, cut down on litigation, which is what I wanted them to do. And so the more and more I was doing of advising, the more I became a consultant, even in that role. And then taking a hiatus and doing a coach training program. That was back in 2018, learning all those skills, the being before doing, the really looking at your vision for your life and your business, and then coming back and sort of bringing it back into the legal arena where I mostly work with law firms, which are businesses, as you mentioned, they're our business. So any business listening is also applicable to them, but with, certain terminology, that certain nuances that drive a practice versus a regular business.
And then what brought you to lean into AI? Because you didn't just like check it out. You really leaned into learning about it, courses and education. You truly didn't just lean into using it and talking about it, but truly becoming a strong expertise around it.
Yeah, I'd say I had a dusting with it about a little over 3 years ago. I was working with one of my few non-law clients, a friend and a colleague that I'd had for years, and she was a tech entrepreneur. And so sort of had a warm-up call to it. And then about 2 years ago, I was working on putting together some CLE programs, and I polled a bunch of small law firms, and I said, what's going to be your biggest question in the coming years? This was maybe 2.5 years ago. And they said AI. And I was like, okay. And so since then, I've done 2 certifications. I'm working on a third next week, finishing that one up next week. And I'm been integral in some organizations like Chief AI Officer, where we meet daily to keep up with AI technology. I've scheduled lots of demos with different product offerings, different brands of software that are now implementing AI, and seeing what's going to be the best fit for my clients while also sort of rolling out that CLE program. So I was on a panel actually at Women Own Law 2 years ago. And this year. So I was honored to do that. And then I rolled out the CLE program starting in October of last year.
And I love that you're out there doing CLE is because it's such a form of education, and to just not hear about it, but actually start applying that knowledge.
Mhm.
What are you seeing some law firms? How are they leaning into it? What is the response been?
It's very interesting, Ivy. It's been slow, even though they said that was the number one thing they wanted to know about, it has been slower than I
To
expected.
integrate.
I
How's that
know.
integration going?
Why? Yes, why? You know why? But it's coming. The tide has definitely turned on interest, and now that it's a household word for everyone, business, not business, anything, everyone's at least heard of it and has a little curiosity. But then what I'm finding is even though a wholesale adoption, a wholesale strategy, a change management process, everything like that would be amazing. Like you wouldn't recognize the firm in a year's time. Lawyers, just like everyone, we're afraid of change.
Yeah.
And what is this going to do? It's very, very traditional world for the most part. You have some people who have always been fully virtual. They've been very tech forward, and that's like a half of a percent.
There is a small community of tech forward, although they're out there because
They
I have
are.
clients out there.
Yeah, they're out there, and you'll know who they are. So it's the other 99.99% that we're kind of pushing a little bit. We're kind of like hoping that or dripping on until the light bulb comes on a little bit, or a little bit of the full vase cannot take any more water. So maybe a little bit of the old
Yeah.
ways need to trickle out so we can put a little bit of the new ways in.
It's been that transition. Like AI is much more impactful, mind you. And I think AI is going to change so much and advance so much. But I'm just going to say, in reference to law firms, one of the things in the implementation of starting to use AI is the same of letting go of their papers and
Mhm.
being completely online. And in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years, we're pushing law firms to do a lot of things that are not comfortable.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see these sort of tech cliffs, and they sort of coincide with retirement cliffs. So e-filing and things like that. We had some people that probably weren't ready to retire, went ahead and retired. We had when fax changed to different electronic portals, and people didn't want to learn the portals. What else did we transition from? Like service, different so electronic service is now available in some areas. Court systems going fully digital with filing. And so we see that sort of collision of, oh, I don't want to learn another thing. I don't want to go through another change. It's time for me to hand this over to the others in the firm that want to do that. And so this is sort of a coincidence as well, which is also a nationwide and industry agnostic. We're expecting a lot of founders to retire in the next 5 years. Attorneys do typically stay founders for a decade longer than other business types. However, at this point, with the AI coming in and them maybe not wanting to utilize it, it's going to be a nice dust up, a nice shift around going with law firm ownership in the next few years.
Question:
Hmm.
if there are leaders in law firms of all generations listening right now, and again, listeners, I'm going to say this is just as applicable to all businesses. Um, what is one thing they can do to start utilizing AI? Because some people are like, I don't know where to get started. I don't know. So I always like to say, okay, so let's make this a little simpler.
Mhm.
What is that one thing a leader can do? What is one thing they could lean into, try, look at, take action on?
Yeah, absolutely. I get that. It's like, do you have an AI 101 course? And I'm like, I've been asked to put one together. So that's maybe on the summer planning.
Stay tuned,
Uh,
listeners.
Stay tuned. Summer, stay tuned. Finding something, a solution that AI would solve would be, or thinking about it, kind of broadening your mind, saying, what is a repeatable, low level task, low risk task? And then start using something that definitely have a paid subscription. I always say, if you're not paying for a product, you are the product. So paid
I
subscription.
love that expression, by the way, Daya. It is
Yeah.
so spot on.
It's not mine, but it definitely
I
fits.
didn't say I get it. I know that expression. I love that expression. It is spot on.
It is. It is. It's right along with no such thing as a free lunch. So definitely try something. So let's just use ChatGPT for example. And it's interesting. ChatGPT has kind of been synonymous with AI, at least as the general population is concerned, as is like Kleenex to a facial tissue.
Sure.
So it's been interesting to do that. It is a robust program that is always being updated. So you'd want to get a at least the $20 a month subscription of that, and additionally go into the privacy settings and check the box that says "Do not train."
Ah,
And additionally, if you have anything that has personal information on it, scrub it before you upload it. So please, no real names, definitely no protected information like social security numbers should ever go into an AI system. From there, you could say something like summarize this pleading or draft me some questions, or what questions do you have upon reading this, and it will instantaneously, practically instantaneously, give you some thinking points and talking points on what you've entered. You can also just use it as just brainstorming, like not upload anything into it, but you could literally just type in something, like I have a spouse getting divorced. There are certain laws in the state protecting, so let's say a homosexual marriage versus a heterosexual marriage. Like, what are the differences for a non-biological spouse of a marriage that's breaking up and they have children of the marriage? So just kind of get some like talking points going with it, and it'd be like, okay, well, you have an issue. Like in your state, there's not an affiliation between the non-biological female spouse with that. You're nobody once you get divorced. So you've got to start putting some stuff into place. Here are some suggestions. So having it sort of as a thought partner. And then if you want to
I have
get,
to tell you, I
okay,
happen to love
sorry.
it as no, I happen to love it as a thought partner. And I'm the person sometimes and listeners, I am one of the least tech savvy people. Like, so I'm 100% leaning in and listening and learning with Daya. We use ChatGPT, and yes, I have the $20 version, and probably I need to go back and check my settings and have you advise me on that. Yet I know sometimes I have that app on my phone and I'll be thinking, it's like, what could I be asking? Right. And I'll just go in and I will voice questions that are coming to my head. Because when I walk, I think, and that's right, that's my brainstorming. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like, wow, and I just always walk away and say, isn't this interesting?
Hmm.
Wow, isn't this cool? It doesn't always give me the answers I want. It doesn't always give me all the information, but it keeps my brain. I'm a brainstormer by nature.
Hmm.
And it's a very interesting brainstorming partner.
Yes, it is. And you can also ask it to ask you questions.
Ah,
So switching into maybe even a coaching model
that-
and having it, there's something called the persona method, which could be, act like the world's best, most renowned business coach. And what question would you ask me based on what the conversation we're having? So that's,
brilliant.
yep, that's one way to even utilize it a little bit more.
So, as you're working with law firms and you're working with the leaders of law firms, how are you helping them? I know when we look to scale, one of the things you're looking at is hiring.
Mhm.
And I will say AI is not in replacement, and maybe you'll disagree, of people. And I'm a strong advocate is we need associates that are 1, 2, and 3 years out because we are going to need them when they're 5 and 10 years out. If we don't
Yes.
train them, we have nothing in a few years.
Hmm.
And I hear a lot of talk about AI and the hiring and well, can we get away with this? Do we need to hire that? What are you hearing and how are you guiding around that conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. There were a lot of knee-jerk reactions that came out when AI started to get very powerful and very useful. It was about, I don't know, 6 months, maybe a year ago, six months or so. It became really to where like, okay, it has like human-like intelligence at this point. And so there has been a hiring freeze. Of course, lawyers are in short supply. People think we have plenty of lawyers, all those jokes, all that, but lawyers are actually a profession, not quite as bad as CPAs, but is that's in a deficit actually. And what I'm seeing, people in the mid levels can be very useful with AI as they're like training it and catching it when it has some BS. It can catch it if you're a trained and experienced attorney. Brand new people, maybe not as much. That's why I'm encouraging the law schools to bring their students up to speed, not necessarily 100% on the use of AI, but more on the how to catch it, how to be more savvy of an attorney right out of the gate, where most of us got savviness later, usually by having our having our
Yeah.
derriere handed to us over a period of years. Things are just going to have to be accelerated.
What has surprised you? Your journey from transitioning from an attorney to leading your business and now being a leader in the AI area.
Um, I'm not saying it's a surprise the pace at which the legal industry moves, as far as making the decisions. Again, it's that very, very small sliver of firms that have jumped on and jumped in with both feet. Some of them even scary fast. I saw some stuff some people were doing even like 2 years ago, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, that's wow, way out of the box. I'm not sure if that's going too fast. But that was especially in the creating your own. Several lawyers I've met through my travels had created their own replicas very early on, not to practice law, but to do marketing. It's funny, we've had this tide switch of don't steal my identity to I'm creating a whole nother identity of myself and using it. So it's
Mhm.
kind of night and day on that. That's kind of where it went. Which is why authenticity and real life conversations like this that are off the cuff are going to be even more valuable as we go forward.
I happen to agree. And one of the things I love about the guests who come on her success story is we really do very minimal prep of our guests. We have conversations. I get to know every person before I interview them if I don't already know them. Yet I don't give them a laundry list of questions, or if they're nervous, we throw them a laundry list of questions. And then I was like, by the way, I don't think I'm going to ask any of those. And it's for true conversation because there's such knowledge in listening in hearing like what's going on in the industry, how can we be doing things that I think is very relevant today, and that this people to people conversation is highly relevant and valuable.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I think things that are going to be replaced by AI will enable people to become artisans in the craft that are highly sought after. So it's like, oh yeah, I know an AI can do this, but I want Ivy to do this. I want Daya to do this. And then that's going to be where the value comes.
Tips. So let's talk about tips.
Sure.
So if and we're going to go two areas for our listeners first, who are, I know I'm supposed to be doing this,
Hmm.
and I don't know what I should do or where to get started. What's one tip that they can do?
I'd say find out how their contemporaries are using it. Have an open conversation about it. I think some people feel like it's cheating or it's taboo or something like that. And more people are reporting using it. But if we bring it out and have conversations about it, and that way you can say, hey, you know what, I used it for this, but I'm so glad I double checked before I filed it because this, and that. Or, I'm using this other product and it was offered by like all the major research companies, and even the research software that's provided by the Bar Association even has an upgrade now for AI. And so being able to share stories, success stories, and war stories about it is going to be invaluable.
And for the more advanced
Mhm.
AI user, so somebody who's already jumped in, somebody who's like looking away and working with it, what should they know and what can they be doing to be working with AI smartly?
Definitely. This is definitely a working smarter, working harder. I worry about people who rabbit hole a lot and want to jump in and get the newest, shiniest thing. And I'm certainly guilty myself. I'm like, oh, somebody sent me, somebody in my trusted group sent me something that I want to look at. And then it hits the paywall and I just can't not move past the paywall, and I do, and then I'm like, okay, and then I start working on a project, and then I come back and I say, oh, I got to go back and use that before the trial period is up or the first month payment is due again, for me to make sure that this is something I am really going to utilize, because you can get your cart really full of softwares and at the end of the month go, whoa, wait a minute, where did all that money go? And then you're back into square one if you're not utilizing what you're using.
I think that's very well said. Be smart about it.
Yeah.
Be smart about know what you're signing up for. I'm an addict of putting dates on my calendar.
Hmm.
When I sign up for something, if it's that 30-day trial or whatever it is, I truly put a date on my calendar on day 28.
Uh-huh. Go back
Not
and check
day
it.
30, because it's not going to happen. I'm going to pay for that first month, but on day 28. So I know I'm working smartly.
Mhm. That's definitely excellent tip. And, and make sure that you've got specific use cases you want to run through it instead of just sort of going through the playing, because you can do it. It's like just because something can be done doesn't means it needs to be done.
Daya, thank you so much for joining me during this legal resource series on her success story. Your brilliance, your knowledge, I am grateful for. I'm grateful to call you a colleague and a friend.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And listeners, this is what we do at this point of the show. Take a deep breath in. Think about the conversation Daya and I just had. What is one takeaway of yours? One, not a laundry list. What is one takeaway? Write it down somewhere. Doesn't matter if it's a pad or a phone, just write it down somewhere. And when we close, make the decision on one action you're going to take from that takeaway, because it's in all these small actions that our success journey sits. Thank you. Daya, again, if this episode was helpful to you, please pass it forward to other people that you would find it helpful as well as hit subscribe. We come into your inbox with new content every Monday, also known as come into your podcast app with a new drop every Monday. Welcome to hearing back from you. What is working for you from her success story? What else do you want to hear? What do you want to know? And what has been helpful? Thanks again.